He woke up. January 6th, 2022. A birthday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year gone without notice. And then he woke up. I barely remember the feeling. We received the call in the car and immediately we knew where we needed to be. We packed our bags and rushed down to the city. I remember feeling nervous, worried about his mental state, wondering, will my dad recognize me? Will he remember the family he's coming back to? Will my life look the same as it once did before he contracted COVID? Or will it forever be changed? I pushed those thoughts out of my mind. He was alive, and that's all that mattered.
Chinese health authorities are still working to identify the virus behind a pneumonia outbreak in the central city of Wuhan.
I have today declared that the coronavirus presents a public health emergency in the United States.
COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
Just 3 years ago, the COVID-19 pandemic reshaped the world in profound ways. In a world marred by the grip of this relentless virus, a remarkable narrative of survival emerges, one that hits particularly close to home for me. This is the story of individuals who found themselves trapped in the liminal space between life and the abyss of a coma, only to emerge as testaments to the triumph of the human spirit.
Today, as we navigate a changed world, we strive to understand the stories that unfolded in the shadows of COVID-19.
My name is Tricia Bergen.
Tricia contracted COVID in October of 2020. She'd go on to spend 42 days in a coma.
You know, I'm Quinn.
Gordon got COVID in March of 2020. He spent 12 days in a coma.
I'm Connie Lynch.
Connie contracted COVID in July of 2021. She'd go on to spend 22 days in a coma.
My name is John Moroni.
John fell sick in December of 2020. He'd go on to spend 41 days in a coma. After contracting COVID, John went to the hospital on December 23rd, where the fight for his life would begin.
So I thought to myself, okay, I got it. So I have to spend Christmas in the hospital. Not the worst thing in the world, but I'll be out in 10 days. Little did I know that would begin a 511-day journey in 4 different hospitals, never going home. My son mentioned that, both of my sons, that when I was put in a coma, they were very fearful of when I would come out of it, if I came out of it, would I have brain damage? Would I be not the same? I mean, it was scary. So lo and behold, on the morning of February 4th, they said, we got a pair of lungs for you. They're the perfect match. I said, okay, let's go. You know, this is the destiny, this is the journey, and I'm gonna have to endure it. And if I die on the table, then there won't be any what ifs with me. I've done everything I humanly possibly could do to survive.
So I came down with COVID in October of 2020, and I initially was feeling a little just different, just off, and that was on Saturday, October 3rd, 2020. Sunday, October 4th, I remember waking up shortly after midnight, and I felt feverish, and I thought, oh no. I got up and took my temperature, and it was 102.7. And I thought, please don't let this be COVID. So I didn't know, the severity of how sick I was. I just knew that I wasn't getting better. And I've later learned since I've been out that I called 4 friends, told them all, each the same story, that I was leaving the hospital AMA because they couldn't do anything for me. I wasn't going to go on a ventilator. So I said, I'm just going to go home. I said, let me just go home. I'm going to drive back to the beach in California. And if I'm supposed to die of COVID, I'm going to die on the beach.
it was cold, I remember by that time I was really sick and really weak. The emergency room, they were putting you in, you're keeping you outside in the cold until they would take you in. And they took me in for the test, but it's the emergency room, so they checked my vital signs. And they must have given me the test, I don't remember that, but they weren't waiting for the results. They just took me, when they saw my vital signs, they took me right into the hospital. And I think that I was one of those COVID patients who we've read about, who my vital signs said I should be unconscious, but I was on my cell phone calling the executive director here, to say, hey, Jolene, it looks like I have it, and I think they're taking me into the hospital.
I was on a retreat, a women's retreat. It ended up, I think, being the 16th or 17th of July. And that's when I really could feel that I wasn't feeling well, I wasn't right. I ended up missing the last part of the retreat because I was in bed and just felt horrible. I don't remember a lot of it at this point still. Through pictures, I kind of remember, but I was just so sick. And I drove us home. The one day my husband's like, okay, are you ready for me to take you to Salt Lake yet? And I'm like, no, I think I'm getting better. Well, later on that early evening, I couldn't walk. I couldn't anything. He said my eyes went black, sunk in my head. So he and my son loaded me in my truck, took me to the ER, and they tested me, that I had COVID, and I was in really bad shape.
The body's response to severe illness is a complex dance. For some, it can involve a state of controlled shutdown, where certain systems in the body are scaled back to preserve energy for critical functions. Unraveling this phenomenon could have implications far beyond this pandemic, shedding light on the potential for human survival in extreme circumstances. But for these survivors, their experiences aren't so simply defined.
Really, really bizarre dreams.
They always said that they had been telling my mom, and we wondered on TV, they can hear you. They would tell her, talk to her.
I thought I was dead, that I was in purgatory. I thought my wife had died, and I was trying to explain that it was a mistake. She wasn't supposed to die. I was the one who had COVID.
I don't know if I was having dreams of stuff or if it was stuff that actually happened.
Just crazy stuff. Or another time, I really believed that I had deposited $1.5 million in the PNC Bank. And I told my older son, Nick, the attorney, you got to go to PNC Bank. The deposit receipt is in the console of my demonstrator, and you got to get that money out of there and put it somewhere safe. And so I had some really crazy, bizarre dreams.
I did have, this was kind of probably one of the only somewhat bad dreams while I was under. And in my dream, I turned to my right and I could see my mom in a distance, kind of up on a balcony walkway. I hear my mom say, "Don't worry about me, I'm okay. Don't worry about me, I'm okay." And later when I told my mom that, she looked at me, she goes, "That's what I told you the night I was in your room before they were going to extubate me." She goes, "I touched your arm and I said, I don't want you to worry." She goes, "I'm okay. Don't worry about me, I'm okay."
I remembered quite a bit of kind of the hallucinations I was having when I was, I'm not sure whether it was the first time or second time I was intubated, but I definitely, they sort of bring you up. They reduce the drugs they're giving you. And I started to remember quite a bit of what I was hallucinating and thinking in that period.
Having people say, hello, or Mr. Quinn, but having a sense that everything had changed, that there was no real world, that the world that I might have known no longer existed, and I was living in some alternate reality or universe.
Apparently, I was begging them not to let me die because they were getting ready to intubate me. Because of my last experience with intubation, my father-in-law did pass away when he was intubated to be flown out of here. So it was pretty emotional. And from there, I don't really remember that other than what I've been told. And I don't know. 3 weeks later-ish, a little over 3 weeks, I woke up.
It begs the question, why them? Why did they survive when so many others didn't? For John, Tricia, Gordon, and Connie, they believe it's because
I've never been a quitter. I'm always a fighter. I'm always half glass full, look for the silver lining, and always in a bad situation. I have a zest for life, love of family, and grateful to be alive today. I remember I'd be so exhausted. I always tell people that take things in increments. When you take 1 hour, accomplish that, pat yourself on the back. Now take that hour and do 2 hours. And then take 4 hours, and build on that. And I kind of did that in the hospital. I would think, okay, let me get through today. When I get through today, sun will shine tomorrow. And it did.
My initial decision to not be intubated was because I'd seen so many things on TV about intubation was like the last step, and essentially that was your death sentence. She knew all my medical doctors. She had worked with them, and when she came back, she was like, "You're in great hands." And I later learned that they told her, "Oh gosh, Tara, you have got to do something with her. She won't go on, she's refused being on an intubate, and being intubated or being on a ventilator. And, her numbers are getting really bad."
She was at the main hospital, and I actually knew one of her doctor at the time, and he's like, "She's just not doing it." And I got her on the phone, and I said, "I know Dr. Helmy. I know he would not be encouraging this. I know he basically, I knew she was just spending so much effort breathing. And if you've had a loved one that has had COVID, then you know that they start getting their CO2 levels increase. They can get really hypoxic, not so much anoxic, but hypoxic. Their brain's just not getting the oxygen they need, so there is a form of delirium and psychosis that goes with that. And she was just, you add that with anxiety and fear and, this virus that none of us know anything about.
And it was Tara who really convinced me, that said, "We need to try this." She goes, "Baby girl," she goes, "you're struggling." She goes, "It's getting to the point." She goes, "A ventilator will help your body breathe on its own." She goes, "You won't have to struggle so much."
I really felt like when I told her that she was going to get on the vet, you had less than a 10% chance of living. And I really felt like I was being part of her death certificate, but I knew I knew they had to paralyze her. I knew they had to knock out her respiratory drive. She had to breathe.
She goes, "Come on, beautiful girl, we need you to do this." So I said, "Okay, I'm trusting you."
I think God just knew that maybe I was the right voice she needed to hear.
I did a grand rounds with that doctor who was going to extubate me, who was a dermatologist really, and who was very young, like 22 years old, 25 years old.
This is several weeks in to getting COVID and being intubated, I believe, twice. And now insisting that I'm DNR.
She really connected with me, took my hand and said, "I hear you. You want to be a DNR. I want you to understand that I've heard you. I got it. Now I want you to listen to me." What she explained to me was, she said, "Look, I'm going to extubate you. You could get into trouble that I could fix pretty easily, but it is invasive. If you're full DNR, I can't do that. I understand you don't want to be intubated again. You know, she negotiated with me, and I said, okay, we even had this joke, and it was going to be the center of the movie that I thought I would make.
Idea for the film is still the same, to make something about the fundamental issues of communication across the intubation barrier. The patient has one desire: to be heard, to be understood, to have power. I think other players have other agendas, which is to keep people alive.
I don't know. I really don't. I just knew my family needed me. And even by that, my parents, they're getting older and they needed me. I didn't ever say goodbye to my son. You know, he helped load me, but he thought that was the last time he was going to see his mom alive. When I finally did get to come home, the hugging him was better than the first time I held him. It was amazing.
In a world gripped with uncertainty, these stories of survival have showed the remarkable strength within us. As researchers delve into the depths of these cases, they're not only piecing together medical mysteries, but revealing the profound ways in which humanity is bound together by hope, determination, and the unyielding pursuit of understanding.
For my family, watching my dad suffer for 44 days in silence at times felt as painful and as hopeless as if he had actually died. But the miracle of coming back from death, it made me believe in the impossible. I found gratitude in the simplest of moments and started to again trust in the possibilities of life. Breathing, walking, and smiling, we've taken his second chance as a gift.
Okay, here we are. There's Lemur. We're all packed. Got my oxygen. Doing good so far, 98. On Michigan Avenue in Ontario. Probably be home in less than an hour. Thanks to everybody for all the hard work, all the preparation, getting the house ready and the shopping and organizing. Can't wait to see you, Kelly and Mom. I made it.
I want to be a very doting grandfather to my grandkids. I want to be involved in their lives, which I am, and any more to come, and spend quality time with my family, and just enjoy life in general.
Or support can make you or break you. And for me, I think it's helped make me be stronger. It's helped made me continue to push. But I just wish that more people could have that same support.
I think maybe that's it, because I was in this, what I perceived as a twilight between life and death, or even having crossed over, that I was in a different state, and so, you take something from that.
I love sunsets. So, my first thing was like, oh, I can't wait to feel the sun on my skin. I don't know. I just still say, oh, I live for these, these evenings and watching the sunset and just the beauty of it. Just things that you take for granted every day. I don't know. It just makes me happy. It makes me feel at peace.